Okay, I'm back to do another 3-card spread with the Margaret Petersen. This time I'm going to I'm going to have a question that's much more specific and much more mundane to see how the cards, see how I can read the cards with questions that are more mundane. I mean, often you want answers to the big questions, but in tarot reading, a lot of times the questions are much more earthly bound. You know, I ask questions about earthly issues, romance, job, family. So this time I'm going to ask a question that's more like that, in the vein of that. And the question is, how can I maintain a reasonable eating schedule or practice during the holidays? Like a lot of people, I tend to overeat during the holidays. And it'd be nice to know some interventions, some ideas of how to eat more reasonably during the holidays. So that's very specific, and I think a question that many of us are sort of curious about. I mean, we all know we should eat less, but that doesn't mean we do eat less during the holidays. So I wonder if there's some kind of strategy that the cards can give me to assist me in eating less during the holidays. Very practical. Okay. I'm being so responsible to even ask the question. So let's see if the cards have to say. Let me go a little lower than that. All right, showtime. Let's see what the cards have to say about what can I do to eat a reasonable amount of food during the holidays and not get carried away. 8 of Feathers. That's the 8 of Swords. It's a preoccupation that I have. I think a lot of people worry about it. I think a lot of people think about the holidays and, well, I can't say a lot of people. I know myself. It's like, oh my God, how am I going to get through the holidays? I got all this food. And it's always, I always think about that. Like, how am I going to get through this day or the next day? How am I going to get through Christmas Eve? Then I have Christmas Day, and then I have the leftovers from Christmas Day. Then you have New Year's Eve, and then you have New Year's Day, and then you have another week of leftovers. And so you kind of, I mean, I can only speak for myself. I face the holidays, and actually the holidays start in Halloween when I buy the candy for Halloween, and then it goes into eating the candy before Halloween even gets here, and then we get into November, and there's the Halloween candy left over, so you're eating that, and then you have Thanksgiving, and of course that's a lot of food, and then there's huge amounts of leftovers from that, and then we deal with Christmas. So it's kind of a challenge for a lot of people. Can't keep saying that. It's a challenge for me. I have to keep thinking, this is for me. This is a reading for me. So I'm approaching this with some concern and some kind of, I feel like I don't have control. And the 8 of Feathers is the 8 of Swords. The 8 of Swords in the Rider-Waite is the woman who's blindfolded with swords are surrounding her, and she's tied up. So that's sort of how I feel. And it always, I feel such a, why can't I control myself during that time? Well, it's actually 3 months. Let's check and see what the 8 of Swords have to say as far as this picture is concerned. So I know it's towards the back. So I am sort of curious how this deck does with, you know, very practical questions. 8 of Feathers. The eye's vision. There's the eye. The eye's vision. A changing of perspectives. The stronger you hold on to the past, the more you copy it again and again. The more distorted and grotesque your perception will become. Recognize ghosts and shadows for what they really are. When do they show up? Why do they show up? How do they come into being? Recognize their dynamics and play with it. Everything you see is you. It is all perceived on your retina. So that's interesting. This is like something, past predicts future behavior. And it's kind of saying that the stronger you hold on to the past and the more you copy it again and again, the more distorted and grotesque your perceptions will become. I'm not approaching every year. Every year I just go back into these thought loops. Oh, here we go again. Oh, I can't control myself. Oh, there's food. Oh, there's food for the Halloween. There's food for Thanksgiving. There's food for Christmas. And I feel it's out of my control. It's something that I've had to live with. So to me, it's saying on this one card, don't think about the past. In other words, handle this holiday fresh. Don't go in thinking about what you used to do, what you always did. Just say, this is a holiday. Let's deal with it as it comes. There are, I know how I can, there are interventions, there are practices you can do to avoid overeating, and just maybe think about what those are. And for me, it's one of them, just be conscious of your eating. There's really no need to eat 10 cookies, 10 Christmas cookies, like within 20 minutes. They're really, have a cookie and enjoy the cookie. Don't inhale the cookie. And my eating a lot, it gets like that. You have one piece and then you go crazy. So recognize the ghosts and the shadows for what they really are. When do they show up? Why do they show up? How do they come into being? So this is telling me to ask these questions. When do I feel like, when do I get out of control? Why am I getting out of control? How does it happen? In other words, step back and look at my behavior and see if there's some answers there that I can, answers or solutions that I can implement to avoid the overeating. The last line I didn't read, I didn't notice it was there, but it is. Forgive yourself and acquire a new perspective. It's so interesting because it's just like I was talking about. So it's saying to forgive yourself and give yourself a new perspective. So this holiday season, I'm going to forgive myself, which is a huge thing to do. Just forgive myself. Just don't worry about it. And acquire a new perspective. Rather than get caught in the looping, the constant looping. I'm a bad person. I can't control myself. What's wrong with me? I just say, just forgive myself and gain a new perspective. Well, that's quite wonderful. That's giving me a very concrete plan. And I have 2 more cards to go. Come on. Oh, boy. Well, this doesn't surprise me. It's the Devil, which is an addiction card. And let's see what she says about the Devil. Confusion in the passionate flame, fears and desires, always the same questions and no answers. Regarding the shadows in the mirror, rewinding of memories and emotions, captivating fantasy. Only the voice of hunger and thirst can be heard. Thinking becomes impersonal, mechanical, predictable. Beauty misused, separated from yourself. In the sharpened vision, at the point of brilliance, new perspectives open. So here we have kind of a very faceted type of stone. The Devil's in there. Look at me. He's looking me over here. He wants me. He's calling me. Cookies, fudge, peanut brittle. So I know it's there. It says I get there's confusion in the passionate flame, fears and desires, which is very true with food with me. Fears, the fear of overeating, desires that wanting it really bad. Always the same questions and no answers. So true. Regarding the shadow in the mirror, Oh, and no answers. I think it says, and no answers regarding the shadows in the mirror. In other words, the shadows in the mirrors have no answers. Rewinding of memories and emotions. You know, food is attached to a lot of our memories and emotions, like when we were kids or any time in our life. Captivating fantasy. Only the voice of hunger and thirst can be heard. Thinking becomes impersonal, mechanical, predictable. Beauty misused, separated from yourself. In the sharpened vision, at the point of brilliance, new perspectives open. So I think it means you have to kind of go head on with this and admit what it is, see it for what it is. It's a passionate flame of fears and desires. So it's interesting that I talked about food, and all these actually address a lot of what I was concerned about. The devil card is interesting because I had talked to a friend about the devil card, and it's a card of addiction. And I was telling her, I said, you know, I don't have any. I never had addictions. I can't think of any addiction I had, you know, to sex or to drugs or money. I mean, I don't have any addictions. And then I thought, well, except food, of course. Well, there is the food addiction. But for some reason, I didn't include it in this situation. So this is quite interesting. Dog's about to go crazy. Okay, so let's, this is all very remarkable, I think. I finally picked something, a very mundane question, and I thought it wouldn't be able to address it, and it's really addressing it very well. Hello. Hello. That's all I got to say. The sun. I mean, come on now. It's going to be no problem. Maybe I'll lose weight this holiday season. I don't think I've ever lost weight. Actually, I have lost weight. I think once. The sun. So I ends up with the sun. If I deal with all this stuff, the sun happens. I have two major arcanas. Okay, the sun. Brightly singing as sound grows white. You appear at the boundary of day and night. Cosmic yellow-skinned goddess. Far away with your rays you touch the plexus named after you. Pulsating organism, illumining the dark and light parts of the world. None more attractive than the other. You see what happens far away and deep inside. You shape the visible world. You make whole what is separate. Everything you touch is transformed. Okay, well, I think this is pretty remarkable. And it shows my concerns. It shows sort of what I have to do. It's an addiction and how to deal with the addiction. And that the outcome will be very good. In other words, I think what's saying to me is I have to become conscious of what I'm doing, conscious of my eating, which I never do. You know, I just kind of think, you know, it's set in stone, the history, the years, the holidays, you know, the disappointments, the family get-togethers, you know, the stuff that causes people to overeat is sometimes the stress, you know, during the holidays. And then, you know, food is very comforting. So I have all these issues to deal with. I know they're my issues. And I recently considered, well, maybe it is an addiction. But if you face your addiction, that is sort of the key. Always the same questions and no answers. Only the voice of hunger and thirst can be heard. Thinking becomes impersonal, mechanical, predictable. Beauty is misused, separated from yourself. In the sharpened vision, at the point of brilliance, new perspectives open. So it's kind of like I got to see it a different way. And once I choose to see it in a different way, I can reach some kind of, have it change. And I think, you know, as I was talking about these cards, I never really drew the connection between eating and having, you know, difficult times during the holidays. I just mentioned it. But holidays are very stressful, and food relieves the stress. So, and sometimes holidays are not stressful, but I'm still eating because that's my pattern. I mean, eating is a wonderful thing, and it's very nutritious and it's enjoyable. But when when you're eating to the point where you're feeling, you just feel like a big blob, then you know you've gone too far. And why do we do this? Well, some of it is habit, but the habit started. But when you're going against your body, there's a habit there that's probably misunderstood, or why the habit started. And so I'm thinking now that maybe there's an emotional component, not just a physicality component of overeating. Maybe there is an emotional component that I have to address, just the holidays in general, And because all these things, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, they're all emotionally charged issues with family, So what's this telling me is if I face it, I know what the problem is, although there are many facets to the problem. There's many more facets to the problem than I realize. And that's where I have to kind of start becoming more discerning. And once I start seeing it for what it is, I could start having insights on how to let it go and how to change it. And it says I can be successful. So this is giving me great hope. I think this is a great reading for me. And it's really quite remarkable because I was thinking that this deck was only for, the big questions, not the little questions. But as we can see, it really does address mundane questions, that seemingly mundane questions, in a very, very powerful way. So we'll see what happens after the holidays, or during the holidays, or before the holidays. Anyways, this has been very interesting, and I'm very, very happy with these cards, considering the question that I had. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.